Italian red wine is exceptional with spaghetti and meatballs, as the wine, such as Chianti, Barbera, Valpolicella, and Montepultieno, all feature herbal notes that add an extra bit of pizzazz to the meatballs. These Italian wines also have ample tannin to bite into the fatty and protein elements of the meatballs. As well, they have acidity to handle the tomato sauce they might be sitting in. If you're looking for a more New World wine, I would suggest Zinfandel. It's not going to be as rustic as these Italian wines I mentioned. However, if you're a big fan of spaghetti and meatballs, I strongly suggest you give these classic Italian red wines a chance. Our first pairing is Chianti and spaghetti with meatballs, and I give this 4.5 out of 5 stars. When we think of spaghetti and meatballs, a lot of us can remember that classic scene in Disney's Lady and the Tramp, that cartoon where the two dogs are eating spaghetti, and in the background, you can see a straw-covered Chianti bottle that acts as a candle holder. That used to be found in every Italian bistro in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and Chianti was king way back then in every Italian restaurant. The problem was Chianti started off as an awesome wine that was imported into North America, but as it grew in popularity, the winemakers in Italy, they saw an opportunity, and they kind of shoveled out worse and worse Chiantis over the decades, and thus Chianti kind of got a bad reputation. That is, until at least the 90s, it fell out of popularity, and the winemakers figured out their mistake. I don't blame the winemakers. I blame, marketing and whatnot. But that was corrected. And now in recent decades, like the last 20 years or so, there are some exceptional Chiantis available to us in North America. Chianti is perfect with spaghetti meatballs because often the spaghetti sauce has tomatoes in it, and if you put a tannic wine up against it like Cabernet Sauvignon, Shiraz, Merlot, or whatever that's high in tannin, that wine is just going to taste flat and metallic. So you need a wine that is high in acidity, such as Chianti, to counteract the acidity of the tomatoes. Sangiovese is the grape that makes up Chianti, and it produces highly acidic wines. And Chianti also has a lot of herbal notes. Chianti is different than New World wines. It's an Old World wine, and with Old World, you try and represent the terroir, the land itself. With New World, they kind of, not in all instances, but in a lot of instances, what's popular is kind of marketed towards what people think they like, which is usually sweet wines that have been enhanced by oak chips, residual sugar, things like that. I'm not saying all wines, but a lot of popular wines can sometimes be like this, and there's nothing wrong with it. I'm not bashing it. I like a lot of these popular wines. However, I also like Old World wines where you get a different spin on wine, and Chianti is like that. Chianti, again, it's herbally, it's got a bit of licorice, got a bit of smoke, and it's just a fantastic wine to pair up with spaghetti and meatballs. It makes the meal incredibly satisfying. Our second pairing is Montepultieno and spaghetti and meatballs. Montepultieno is another great pick. I give this 4 out of 5 stars. And I give it 4 out of 5 stars because sometimes it's trickier to find a consistent Montepulcieno. It's not available everywhere. So your selection might be a little hit or miss, and you'll probably have to do some research or ask someone at the store where you're buying this wine. These wines are best drank young in most instances. They're dry, they're fruity, they're not anything like a New World wine. You get some fleshy fruit flavors of black cherry, plum, and blackberries, and you find an earthy minerality along with spicy notes of licorice, black pepper, leather, and violet. Similar to Chianti Classico, you get acidity, which you need for that tomato sauce, and you get some nice grippy tannin to dig in or bite into that protein and fatty meatball. Our third pick is Volapucello and meatballs with spaghetti. Again, Volapucello is like Montepultieno, and you have an acidic wine with a tannic bite. You get lots of black and red cherry flavors, along with earthier notes of herbs, leather, and smoke. You also get a nice bitter cherry finish on the finish, and this might not be appealing if you're into like sweeter and more manipulated popular red wines. I don't have it listed here, but I also would suggest Barbera, which is similar to Volapucello. I find it a little bit lighter in alcohol and not as bold in flavor as Valpolicella, but still bold enough to hold up to the spaghetti and meatballs. Our fourth pairing is Zinfandel and meatballs with spaghetti, and I give this 4 out of 5 stars. If you're feeling New World, again, food-friendly Zinfandel pairs up nice with spaghetti and meatballs. You don't want a big fruit bomb of a Zinfandel. You want something medium-bodied, as that will marry up well with the tomato sauce. Again, Zinfandel is usually acidic, although there sometimes is tannin introduced, but not enough when it's medium-bodied to fall flat against the tomato sauce. You also get a nice peppery and spicy note in Zinfandel that complements the meat, and on the finish, you tend to find a little bit of smoke. If Zinfandel isn't your thing, a more substantial Pinot Noir will match up, but stay away from Pinot Noir if your spaghetti and meatballs is heavy in the garlic or spicy heat, as this light wine might whimper underneath the heavy flavors of garlic or spice. And our final pairing is Chardonnay and meatballs. I wouldn't really recommend this. I give this 3.5 out of 5 stars. It's fine. It's a fine pairing. You won't write home about it, like no one will complain. Not everyone enjoys red wine, so if you're going white, I would go Pinot Grigio or Chardonnay. I lean more towards Chardonnay because Chardonnay, if you go California, you can get a nice buttery Chardonnay that will complement any garlic bread or just buttered bread that accompanies your spaghetti and meatballs. Butter also tends to go with just plain noodles, which spaghetti basically is without the sauce and whatnot. So that Chardonnay will go nice with the noodle aspect of your spaghetti and meatballs. As far as complementing the meatballs, not really gonna happen, but it will be refreshing against the meatball flavors because you get some nice notes of peach, apple, pear, and sometimes some tropical citrus flavors of pineapple or lime and lemon. If this video helped you out, be sure to give it a like. It helps me out, helps more people see my videos. Also, be sure to visit my website. Details are in the link below. I have a whole food and wine pairing database where I rank everything like this. You can go to the little search engine, type in your food, your wine, your beer even, and it will give you the top recommendations complete with rankings. Until next week, cheers.